Okay, we are live to talk about, well, quite a lot. There's been a little bit more White Sox baseball news than usual, and definitely more than there's been all year long. So much that I couldn't handle it on my own. We are very lucky today to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Mr. Joe Moran.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for joining us. And yeah, for any of us, if anybody watching that has been watching maybe just since 2020, which is definitely when most of the subscribers came around, Joe Moran was my co-host on Brushback, MLB Chat, whatever we called it exactly.
I think it was Brushback MLB, something like that.
Yeah.
It was a general, most just all about baseball and covered like the major.
Right.
And now we're more focused here, I guess, on the White Sox.
Just you know what, just lean into the passion.
Yeah.
Just go ahead, give in. I kept trying to make it this national, like we could talk about everything, and we did. We had fun talking about everything.
But at the end of the day, I know more about the White Sox than I do about anything else baseball related. So like,
sure.
I felt like I was definitely winging it. Like, yeah, sure, let's just do this and do that, and apply all that logic I took with the White Sox to like the Royals. And it looks like that actually happened. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we are the Royals apparently, but yeah, it's nice to be back. This looks so much better and cleaner and crisper, and it's cool, dude. The artwork, everything.
Well, I always think back to the many times we tried to do this remotely. We did it in your studio, which was a lot of fun. But then when I moved away, we had to try to cobble together all of these attempts to do this, which didn't exist yet. So like we'd be broadcasting onto TVs over the shoulder. It just
the technology is better. It's like the $6 billion man is in the studio with us today because we have the technology.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, anybody joining, you can see what topics we're going to be talking about. Just scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. And yeah, before we get into the fight, which I'm sure is what a lot of people are going to want to talk about, there's a lot of soap opera going on the diamond these days. We want to have a moment to look back at the trades that were, and there were quite a few of them. And this is starting with me sharing my screen. Let's make sure I know how to do this. I do. It's just been a while. And Joe can go ahead and vamp. I'm just completely putting you on the spot.
No, that's cool. Full transparency. And I should probably have gotten consent from you before we logged on and gone live. But I'm not wearing any pants today. In fact, I'm not wearing underwear. I literally stepped out of a shower and just threw this T-shirt on.
Well, there we go.
It feels really good. And if you're cool with that, I'm cool with it. And like, it's just, I mean, we're not even in the same room, but like, transparency is important to me. So I'm half naked.
If if Joe is half naked, I am a safe amount of distance from him, which is a good 2,000 miles. So
more than 6 feet. You're okay. You're safe.
I'm all right. Yes.
This isn't below deck on down under or anything.
Right.
Don't worry. I don't know if you've seen that, but anyways.
Was that a Star Trek Below Decks reference, or I just totally missed it?
No, there's it's below
the
deck
lower decks. That's
that's down under. It takes place in like Australia as opposed to the Mediterranean.
Oh, I have heard of that show, but no, I have not viewed that at all.
And it's great. You should watch it.
Wendy's getting.
I love Below Deck.
You're getting some laughs from Wendy already. So
because women know the only people who watch Below Deck are like, I mean, any kind of guy is like, if the straight guy's watching like Bravo, he's watching Below Deck.
I've heard a lot of that. That is, I think, a lot of people's guilty pleasure show these days.
Oh, there's a lot to like. It's just watch.
So let's go bit by bit, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on each one, but I think it was kind of inevitable. I hate to say it, because as White Sox fans, we know we can't hold on to our stars. It was inevitable that Lucas Giolito was going to be traded away. Yeah. What was your take on just finding out that Giolito was gone?
Like you said, saw it coming, but I don't know. I kind of feel like a lot of this team, especially like people who got traded and the people who are still here, it's like we only see what we see, and there's so much more going on in the background. So like you'd think like, oh, why would they want to leave? Why would they not come back? Of course they'd come back, blah, blah, blah. Or they'd want to be back here. or they don't want to get traded and they want to stay or whatever.
Yeah.
Like in Giolito's case, I kind of feel like there was some, like, I don't know if there was like bad blood at one point last year that carried over to this year, and then like there was this like little chat maybe. I don't know. It just seemed like there was an agreement like, hey, we don't want to be here anymore. This isn't what we thought it was. Please trade us. I'll do whatever I can on my side to get the numbers up so that you can make a good deal for me and just get me out of here. But let's face it, I'm not coming back as a free agent. And I think it's something went like I read something last year. Maybe it was last year, but it was like in the Sun Times where Giolito was trying to get a contract extension, and they were like $50,000 apart or something.
Yeah, it was his last, or maybe you're right. I think it was 2 off seasons ago, his arbitration salary for the year. And the amount that they were off on was just 50 grand, which there's 2 sides of this. One, it's kind of unprofessional that Giolito brought that out to the public. But 2, he's also right. It was only 50 grand.
Yeah. No, it's no, there's, exactly. No, there's no, 50 grand is like a drop in the bucket. It's like, it's nothing compared. I mean, for any baseball team, major league team. But I think where the White Sox were like, that gave them the out, if you will, because they don't negotiate through the press.
No.
And when that happened, they were like, oh, well, we're just not going to talk about that. And then things just unfolded. His year and a half since that happened, there was a little bit of a drop off. And then it's kind of like you see things happen at the end of last season, and it's like this is a rudderless ship. Right. Yeah. So like if you're a player who's in the clubhouse watching this go down, you got to be thinking like, hey, is this where I need to be? Is this going to get me to my goals? And as much as we all love baseball and we look at it from the fan point of view, as a player, this is where they make their living. This is where they come to work every day. Like you and I go to our jobs every day. Mm-hmm. They want to be in an environment that's going to make them successful, but also feel good. So some of these guys may not want to be here.
Yeah. And,
that's a possibility.
It's a possibility. And if it's also possible that the White Sox took a somewhat classy move. They were able to get him to go to Southern California, where he's from. I'm sure Giolito is excited to be playing for not exactly his hometown team, but he's in the ballpark at least. He's in the state region.
I think so too. And change of scenery for everybody is usually, it could be a good thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully it turns out better for him, or whatever. He just has success. That's it,
Right. And it was impressive. I thought Lopez was a little bit of a throw-in, I think, at this point. Lopez was in the final year of team control, as was Giolito. And, I can't imagine he added very much to the trade. But overall, the White Sox got 2 players back, a catcher who was a top 100 ranked catcher, 61st or 85th, depending on if you're looking at Fangraphs or Baseball America. And then a pitcher, Kai Bush, who was the 9th ranked Anaheim prospect at the time.
Yeah. I like really the idea of the catcher. Back. The catcher we got, obviously that they addressed a need. Wait, did we? Oh, that was great. Oh, we got 2 catchers in over the whole thing. But staying on the Giolito and Lopez. So who was out of that trade then? Which out of the 2 players would you say the White Sox are going to benefit the most from?
Well, it's interesting because as
it brings more value is the better question.
I mean, you do see the next name on there, Corey Lee, who came over in the Graveman trade, also a top 100 prospect, also a catcher. So the White Sox went from being in not a great place position-wise from the catching position, because this is Yasmani Grandal's final year as well. And as we've seen, his age is catching up to him, as happens with catchers all the time. So the White Sox next chapter was kind of wide open, and the first guy in line was Sebi Zavala. And
I like this guy for some reason. I don't know why. He just seems like he wants to be there. He cares, and he shows up, and it's like, I don't know. That game he had 4 home runs or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's been flashes. Last year he had really good numbers, and they were kind of like unsustainably good. And then this year he got a lot more playing time, and he showed that he's a guy batting around 214. Again, there's a different yardstick when it comes to offense from a catcher. That's a secondary job. The main job is to be a catcher, handle the pitching staff. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And Sebi still does have a future with the team. He's probably going to slate in as the starting catcher to start next season. But it's great to have some potential star power behind him, working their way up through the minors and maybe up here much sooner than later. Maybe we'll even get a look at one of these guys during September when rosters expand a bit.
Oh, I hope so. You might as well. I mean, bring these guys up. Let's see what they can do. Find
Yeah,
out where their strengths are and where they're not, if there are any. I mean, if there's any weaknesses, let's address it now,
sure.
uh, instead of waiting until June
Yeah,
next year.
and really the timing is good because Sebi, I believe, went down with an injury recently. It might be a minor one. And then Yasmani was taken out of the game just last night with a knee injury. So imagine if we didn't have these guys behind us. And it's not like we're playing for anything now. We're just getting through the season. But as I was saying on the live stream on deadline day, this is kind of an extended spring training for a lot of these guys.
Oh yeah, a lot of these guys are playing for their job next year.
Yeah, and it's way better than spring training because they are actually going to be facing only major league, talent, and including a lot of teams that have something to play for. So spring training is so often, what are we doing here? Do we really need to have this many games? You need the time, but when the opponents aren't putting out their best players and you're not putting out your best players, how much are we really learning?
It's a very mechanical, like kind of like exercise, and it's you're not really getting the level of what they need to be prepared long term.
Right.
It's especially when you're only getting like an inning and a half in a spring training game, just to, like all throughout. You're barely leaving a spring training game at 5 innings. Some of them are getting passed into the 7th by the end of spring training, but most of them are not.
Yeah,
They're just not because they're like, yeah, I'm ready. Don't worry. I'll
sure.
be ready, and you get that bravado. Don't worry, we'll be okay. We're going to be just fine. I'll be ready. Then they show up and they're not ready, or they were ready at the World Baseball Classic. And then for whatever reason, they just weren't as ready after the fact.
Yeah. And
it is what it is, but
well, we will do a little bit of, I think, WBC talk when it comes to Kenyon Middleton, because that was some of his criticism, which seemed a little bit odd. And he had a lot of good things to say too, but the WBC was an issue that he took. I'm looking at my graphic and realizing I did mix something up when looking at Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly heading to the Dodgers. That 2 and 3 actually should belong to Edgar and Kai up in the Anaheim trade, because they were the number 2 and 3 rated players within Anaheim's system.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, but yes, Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly head to the Dodgers. In Kelly's case, he's heading back to the Dodgers.
I kind of feel like if there's one place Joe Kelly fits in, it's probably the Dodgers.
You know what? I had so much fun watching him pitch with the White Sox. It didn't always end well. He had moments, but man, his I don't know, gamesmanship in some way. His trickery of trying to throw off the timing, I thought was a little gimmicky, but it was still fun to watch.
I kind of feel it's like he just kind of has fun with it, and I get a kick out of people thinking and getting upset with how he approaches it, because obviously he's throwing their game off,
right?
And if you're bringing it up and you're kind of giving him a jaw and you're yapping at him, yeah, I think you're gonna find that like he's gonna like that they're adding gasoline to that fire.
Right. Yes.
He's like, yeah, I'm pissing you off. Oh, wonderful. Let's do this some more. Yeah, let's turn it up a little bit. This one goes to 11. How do you like that? And I like the guy. I wish he was still with the White Sox, just because it's like, what do we got to lose? I mean, let's have some fun. And this guy could bring that to the table.
Right. And the thing that amazed me about Kelly is that he could do that, like, lift up his leg and just pause for a moment and then continue his delivery, and he would still get into the upper 90s.
Yeah. Isn't that something else, man? It's like to be able to like stop motion, almost like just like hold.
Yeah.
It's like Bruce Lee type shit.
Yeah. It's I mean, obviously he's got some muscle to be able to do that without, he takes himself out of the flow, but he can still make the delivery.
Yeah. I like how he just talks trash at the end of the day. Like he'll get in your face. And I think right after he got traded back to the Dodgers,
he was throwing at Tatis.
They were throwing at Tatis and like John at him and like, yeah, get out, sit down. Or he said something, man. Like he was walking away from him and he says, take that blah, blah, blah back to your dugout or something. It was funny. I get a kick out of that. because it's just John. It's like WWE, the trash talk before the fight, where they're like, Hogan, they're just kind of like going back. That's cool to me when they're
Yeah.
just trash talking.
No, he's having fun,
Mhm.
and he was the first person to really take it upon himself, like put it on my shoulders. I'm going to go ahead and get back at the Astros for cheating.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that was throwing at Astros players, had no problem with it. He had no
wore it with a
problem
bag.
wearing it. Yeah, absolutely. He really did, especially because, again, he was playing for the Dodgers back then, and they were a team that got eliminated by the Astros.
Yeah,
So,
and can you blame him? Like, here, and not only that,
no.
but like, all right, so like, if it doesn't work out, where he doesn't become as that guy,
Mhm.
he still is a World Series champion, winner, the whole 9 yards, and like that is going to go to that mug, that like,
Yes, exactly.
like that's
The pouty face.
that'll be around forever, just like Nolan Ryan beating the crap out of Robin Ventura will be around forever, and the most recent events from last weekend, that'll be
Oh,
around
no.
forever too.
Forever.
But like going back to Joe Kelly, we'll get to that stuff
Right.
later. But like that picture, like there's a mural in LA, like a whole wall of that.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's like on Western Avenue in Koreatown. Like LA embraced this guy and made him like, oh, this guy's family. Like, don't ever worry, he's always and forever family.
That's
because
awesome.
because of that. It's kind of
Sure.
like Scott Pasednik hitting that home
Scotty
run in game
Pods.
2. That guy's never gonna ever go starving in Chicago. If he's in Chicago, he'll have a table with his name on it. And
Yeah.
he'll be able to eat there for free because a World Series game inning one. Like, it's just that's the importance.
And he was honestly the spark plug that led that team all season long.
Yeah.
It was too bad that that star, the shine didn't last that long with him, because I was a huge Scotty Pods fan.
I was too.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. I thought he was really fast.
He was a disruptor. He was kind of what Tim Anderson has been up till this season.
Well, yeah,
a guy that got on base, played hard, aggressive on the base paths.
Yeah, before you knew it, if the guy got on first, if he wasn't at second, he was at third before you know it. And
right.
That was the thing. That's the big comparison, I think. If you talk about this team and the 05 team, this team does not generate runs like the 05 team did. In terms of like, oh, you got a guy on first, don't worry, we're going to get him to second on the next at bat, and then we'll do like a hit and run or something. We'll put the ball in play, and we'll all be alert and whatever, and they would generate a run.
We'll grinder rules to a victory.
Yeah, grinder rule number 89. I love the grinder rules. I thought they were amazing. It was an amazing marketing like setup. Like, they were just awesome.
I think I mentioned to you once that I bumped into at a bar in San Antonio, the guy who was the voice of White Sox grinder rules.
Really?
Yeah. He was also, I think he did like SpongeBob voices or something like that. But anyway, voice actor.
That's cool, man. Why not Gene Honda? Why isn't he doing like grinder rules?
No kidding. Everybody loves Gene Honda.
Yeah, like grinder rule number 42, or something like that.
And moving along, we have right before the trade deadline, the actual deadline hit, Kenyon Middleton, the trade was announced, him heading to the Yankees, that's found money. The White Sox picked him up on a minor league deal. He made the team out of spring training, and he was solid. So that was, for as much as has gone wrong with this season for the White Sox, and obviously there's plenty, there are some really positive, lucky things that would be even worse had the White Sox not lucked into people like Kenyon Middleton, Tukey Toussaint, and of course, we always had high hopes for Jake Berger, but man, he legitimately became a 30 home run hitter. Not the entire season with us, but so the White Sox were able to get the Yankees number 29 prospect for Kenyon Middleton, which is kind of awesome. I don't know much about this guy, Juan Corella, but a lot more depth for the White Sox. And then, of course, let's get your reaction to hearing that Jake Berger. That was such a surprise.
I did not see it coming. I honestly thought he'd be sticking around. His story is so huge, and in terms of the adversity of overcoming the obstacles, and it's a great story. And there is an established fan base already. Like the fans were already like kind of like in a sense built in for this guy.
Sure.
So like there's something to really build upon, not only a player to build around in the clubhouse because of his talent. I mean, obviously, like this guy is amazing. But like when you got the fans on board with one of your players, I think it just makes sense to like lean into that and find a way to like marry these two together, because this guy is going to bring you customers and get people to buy tickets. And
Sure.
now I understand the flip side and the business side of like, hey, this guy's going to bring us value, a nice haul, we got a good piece back. But I think is like at what I don't think I don't know. I think I would have held off, even though I know this guy's a great pitcher. I don't think I would have traded him. I think I would have been like, who else you like?
Yeah, well, I feel
You
like
know?
the who else you like might be how it came to be, because rumors
Yeah.
were coming out that Miami was interested in Tim Anderson. And, maybe the chances are the White Sox asking price was way too high. And then the other said, okay, well, what about the same package for Jake Berger? Well, yeah, okay, for whatever reason, we can stomach that one more. It's
Yeah.
surprising because Jake is still inexpensive. Usually the White Sox are trading off their more expensive pieces. He's under
Yeah.
team control for several more years, I think through at least 2025.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, or 26, but like
Could be
maybe that's the
26.
next contention window is 2026.
And also, I feel like his hitting, although, listen, if you look at his hitting tool overall, he swings and misses a lot. He strikes out a lot. He doesn't have a very high average, but man alive, he can hit the ball 500 feet. And there's value to that. There's a lot of value to that. I thought Jake had worked himself into being too valuable to trade away, too valuable to the future of the team. Because even though, we have somebody like Eloy Jimenez on the team, and he has 31 home runs in one season under his belt. That's a while ago, and he's not showing that kind of power anymore.
Yeah.
You can't just take it for granted that it'll come back.
Going back to Berger, because I'll
Yeah.
forget this. When they traded him, I kind of felt like they were like, because he had so many years under control.
Yeah.
He's hitting all these home runs in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Let's face it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it reminded me of a little bit of like how they parted ways with Rodon. I know Rodon was a free agent when he left, but when he left, the White Sox basically said, "Oh, we're not even going to make this guy an offer."
Right.
And they were not betting on him whatsoever. Like they feel like he's done. We don't think there's any value in the guy. Let him walk.
Yeah.
So they basically are betting on Rodon not being successful after he left. And obviously he was very successful and he got a nice contract, and he's now with the Yankees. But the way they just were like scoffed at Rodon walking, like, oh no, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Again, what was going on for that guy to walk, and you guys didn't make an offer of any kind at all?
Yeah.
So like that was weird to me, but like just the fact that like they were kind of like nonchalant about letting him walk. And I feel the same attitude is here with Berger. It's like, yeah, we're betting on him kind of like falling off.
Sure.
We don't really think he's going to do that much better or get much better and be that much more successful. We feel like he's going to top off, and we're going to try and cash in on him now. Maybe that's the right play. But I like I said, this is a guy who your fan base is like literally surrounding with love. Find a way to make this work and build around him maybe for at least another year or two.
And he looked damn good in the home run trench coat and fedora,
Yeah, like he looks like he's like the guy who's gonna go put a hit, and you'll never know. You just won't know.
Nobody talks when Berger makes his hit.
Yeah, but I like the guy. I like him a lot. I like his work ethic.
Yeah,
and
I think
mustache. Whew.
Come on, that's Chicago right there.
Yeah, he looks like a mechanic, dude. He's like,
he hits a home run, then he's walking his beat right after. Yeah, I mean, the White Sox did get the Marlins #1 overall prospect and another person in the top 100 prospects list, 54th overall. And again, we're talking about places of need. Pitching is definitely a place of need. The White Sox have not been good at developing starting pitchers. There's the aberrations of, the Chris Sales out there, but there's not many of those. And I think we learned last time that the White Sox needed to trade for prospects that were good pitchers, and Giolito was one of them a few years back.
Yeah, him, Kopech,
right,
Ronaldo Lopez. Sorry, like most of their even Dylan Cease.
Yeah, Cease is another. Oh yeah, he came from the Cubs.
He came from the Cubs.
Yeah.
So like, there's almost like we talk about what the Sox got back. in the trade or the trades this year, and it kind of goes like something. I remember Ron Schuler saying this back in the 90s.
Oh boy, here we go.
All right. Ron Schuler made the comment like something like, "Hey, we're on the," and this is where the White Sox spin for me really kind of begins as a young person and their PR bullshit. But like he says, you know, we're getting from A to B, but we're having trouble to get from B to C. You know, that's the
Okay.
plan, is to go from A to B to C and get a championship, right? Which was like, all right, yeah, I get what he's saying. He's making sense. All right, Ron, you got my support. Fast forward to here we are with this rebuild, and they get a lot better with the shiny words, you know, and the buzzwords. But like the idea here is like, hey, you know, get on board. We're gonna do this, and they're really good at getting from A to B, meaning they can draft a decent player, they can make trades for decent, you know, prospects and develop them after they're in the house. And then all of a sudden, once they get these guys and they're developed and they're at the show, and we're all, and the whole time, you know, we're all like, oh man, we're going to be good. Do you know how, do you have any idea what our farm system looks like? Oh my gosh, we're going to just wait a couple years. And then that couple years comes and these guys sometimes pan out, sometimes they don't. And it's like, that's the White Sox. They can get to that point and then everything like a fading star fall, you know, it's just, it's gone.
Yeah. It's tough because again, I mean, the front office and the ownership acts like we are the Oakland A's, where even if we get good players, we can't hold on to them because you know, that's just, we can't afford that. We're in Chicago. And I know we are the second team in the second city, but it's still a major market.
Major market. Dude, this team's worth $2.2 billion.
Right.
2.2. Now, when they did the rebuild, they were worth $900 million, roughly. Yeah. And it hasn't even been 10 years, and now they're worth $2.2 billion. They haven't won a thing.
Yeah.
So like, why make, it's like the Cubs in the 90s and 80s, man. They didn't have to field a good team. They had people selling out all the time anyways. Yeah. Why win? Pays to lose, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, so so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the rumor, and it wasn't just a rumor. It was actually conversations that were ongoing. And taking a quick look, and I haven't even added all this up. How much money the White Sox saved this year? It's over 10 million. I mean, right there alone, Kendall Graveman alone is over 10 million because he was on contract for next year as well. And you know, saving money is one thing. If you believe that the team will reinvest in the future, then yes, save money to buy, you know, to invest in better free agents, or to extend people like a Dylan Cease or like somebody else who might have a future with the team.
Right.
Although I often have, as we're just talking about, doubts that will ever happen. But we find out that the White Sox were in talks with the Royals to get Salvador Perez, who again would be a catching need for the White Sox next year. And he's not cheap. He's at like 18-ish. I don't know if it's that much, around that million per year.
Really?
And he'd be on the books for the next several years.
All right. How old is he?
Let's find some information out, shall we?
One thing I was going to say about him, and that this could be why that they're in talks with it. It makes sense when you look at your graphic here, the two catches we brought in with the trades. That makes sense. Like we're not taking Grandal back. That guy's he's done. It's been a nice, here's your money, goodbye. And I think that's an $18 million like off the books basically. Yeah. So like you're replacing one guy with another, but one of those guys is a World Series champion who has a relationship with the current manager, like a pretty strong one. So like there's a lot of like, you know, if we are bringing back Griffall, which I think they are and they should, I think this makes sense to, you know, to make that trade and go get him, because then you have a guy who's going to mentor these two guys.
I do love that. Yeah.
And that's really like, that's good. I like that strategy. That's the thing that I like about Rick Hahn and his ability to see like the big picture of like, hey, if I have this piece here and this one here and I move, you know, he's great at that. But like once they're at that level, there's that disconnect that I don't know what it is, honestly.
Yeah.
But like, I'm down for this guy. Bring him in.
So
bring him in.
Right. So as we see, there's 2 more guaranteed years plus a club option on Salvi Perez. And I don't know if the conversations have stopped now that we do have other catchers in the mix now, or if it would be something that still happens in the offseason, some way to, you know, Royals are their rebuild has already fizzled. They've done worse than the White Sox, if you can imagine. But 20 million next year at age 34, 35, and then an option for age 36. He's not cheap at all. And I'm sure the Royals would just be looking at a salary dump type situation, even though he's kind of a face of the franchise type player. I mean, he's been, as you see, he's been with Kansas City since 2012, and he's been really good. He's been one of the better catchers in the game.
Wow,
this was
a lot of money.
Spent a lot of money.
97 million.
Yeah, when all is said, career to date. Yeah, so that's not even including the upcoming salaries.
He's got 42 million coming to him
on its way, a minimum if it's just the buyout versus the team option. So what was exciting to me right away is that this being on the table meant the White Sox are ready to spend money as soon as next year on the team, which I wasn't really sure that would happen.
Well, it's the money thing is great, and I think we all talk about like, hey, you got to spend this money, but the 05 White Sox had like an $80 million payroll.
Right.
They were not anywhere near where the top was at the time. And I think there are teams that don't have to go out and spend all that money the way the playoff structure, especially.
They don't if they can draft and develop on their own. And the White Sox have shown that maybe that's not a strong suit.
Yeah, that's true. So in that case, they're going to have to spend money, especially if they think they can compete in the next year. They have nothing in house that's ready to go, that's going to just get them over the hump. Just like the expectation of, and I got really nothing against Grifol. I actually feel bad for him, the manager, because like the guy just wants to manage, and
sure,
he's got tools and he's trying to work the best with the tools. But what was it? I just went blank. We were just talking about bringing in. Oh, they had to spend money. To spend the money, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I just went blank. I just totally went blank. But I know it had something to do with like them spending money and not being able to develop the talent in house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right.
I had a connection. I'll come back to me.
Well, I mean, right now, if the White Sox are, for me, this is about trying to forecast the future based on this knowledge that the White Sox are willing to spend money, which they aren't usually willing to do unless they think that they can actually win it. Will this become an off season where the White Sox actually go after some more major free agents? And I would love it if they did this, not only because it'd be exciting, but the White Sox will definitely finish the season with one of the 10 worst records in baseball, which means their first round draft pick will be protected. So, so often the White Sox are at like 11th or 12th. Like, oh gosh, if they
right on the cusp,
right on the wrong side of the cusp, and then we're not doing well. And if we sign a big free agent, it's actually going to hurt us for as far as drafting for the future. White Sox will have a protected draft pick, not only in the top 10, but possibly in the top 5. And yeah, if they're willing to spend some money, the White Sox, it's the quickest way to be competitive quick. As we see, the starting pitching is needing some help, especially after Giolito and Lynn are no longer on the squad.
Yeah. Well, I going back, you just brought me back to what I was thinking is that like if they're not going to develop it in house and they do expect to compete, like they've indicated, like, oh, next year we're going to compete. We intend to be in the playoffs. Like, oh, do you? Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then get out the checkbook because what you have is not good enough. And the reason it's not good enough is because they don't have the experience of a major league season under their belt. Or if they do, it's not enough where they can do that grind and still not only perform well, but mentally balance it all. Because I think that's where a lot of our problems are. We have guys who were given way too much too soon, and the balance of like that expectation and your talent and your job, it just isn't there. And the expectations from fans and from everybody else in the media, it's so heavy,
right?
That like it's hard to like live up to it almost. And it's like I kind of feel like that's like if you're gonna expect these guys to win, go get experienced guys and pay for them. But don't tell me you're gonna bring in a bunch of rookies and say we're gonna be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
like no, you're not.
It's got to be, you got to be constantly building the team a couple of different ways for the now and for the future.
As Kenny Williams so eloquently said in 2006.
The architect, you quote.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's like, we are building sustainable long-term success for the future of this organization. It's like,
On
okay.
paper, maybe, but
Yeah, exactly.
there's just too many variables all the time. And I just want to take a
And
quick look at this as the White Sox again went and picked up a whole bunch of young studs. As we see, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 are all new additions to the White Sox top 30. So 5 of the top 7 players are guys that the White Sox just picked up. So that doesn't mean it's, as we know, especially prospects are suspect, as the old line goes. There's no guarantee, but the chances are some of them will be major contributors at the major league level. And I can't wait for the next prospect rankings to come out, the farm team rankings to come out, which I think won't happen until spring. But I'm really curious to see how the White Sox move up the list, because they're, very frequently in the bottom 5 or so.
yeah, I like, this is a nice list. It looks really nice. I like how it scrolls.
And there's Jordan Leisure. He's another pickup down at number 27 there.
Wow.
So.
And Jacob Burke, isn't he like?
Yeah, I think
that's a different. Oh, wait, where's is there this Wolkoff or George Wolkoff? He just got drafted. Or would he not be on this list?
He could be on this list if he's already believed to be.
He signed last week or 2 weeks ago with
okay.
The team. I guess he was drafted this year though. It was just like whatever.
Yeah,
like a month ago.
Maybe they need more time to evaluate.
Yeah, that's cool.
But an interesting to point out as we start to segue, Tim Anderson's got one more option year left on his contract. It is $14 million for next year. And at the very top of this list is a shortstop, Colson Montgomery.
The elephant in the room, literally 6'3".
So a question will be, is Colson Montgomery, is he already kind of slotted in to come in 2024? Might he show us that he's ready to come in 2023? There's going to be some, I guess spring training is going to be big. We'll see if Tim Anderson is still with the team. I guess right off the bat, even before getting into the fisticuffs, do you think Tim Anderson's option was a lock to be picked up, or is that something that's needs to be debated among the front office of the White Sox?
I think it's something they're going to pick up.
Yeah.
Personally, I think there's a lot of reasons I think they should pick it up. But one, I remember Frank Thomas having a bad year and everyone basically shit on him. And it turned out the guy was playing with a bone spur in his ankle or something.
Yeah.
And like when he came back, even in 2005, before he went on, shortened season, the guy hit like 12 homers and like 24 RBIs in less than 30 games. And he had this guy been a healthy Frank that whole year. Gosh, who knows what he would have done with that 05 White Sox team. But like, this is a guy that like for the previous 7 years before that injury was in the top 10 offensive categories. And he was like, that we would like for the first like 7 years. And like, there's only like 6 people or 5 guys throughout the history of baseball who could say that about their careers in the first 6 or 7 seasons, like Pujols, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth.
Right.
Like that's some pretty, like Mike Trout, I think is now in that class. That's some pretty big stuff. So like, I feel like, you think about what Anderson's done for his career with the White Sox. He's a big part of it. And he's had a really strong career and he's played very well. I think it's just a matter of time before, like, everyone has a down year. Who knows what the causes are of those down years? It could be on field. It could be off field. It's just whatever. But usually they don't lose their talent overnight like that and their ability to do their jobs. Just like I don't lose my ability to sell a mattress or tell a joke or like it's not something I'm going to forget how to do and just wake up one day and be like, oh, how about that? Like, what am I going to do now?
Right. And I think if we look back, I believe it was 2018, as you see, TA was having a very down year. I mean, he hadn't really established himself yet, but even for him, it was a bad year at that time, 240 average. He just wasn't looking good. And then, it didn't come out until a year later that his best friend was murdered during that season, the godfather to his daughter. So like, that's something that he was struggling with privately. And we know he's an emotional person. So again, the off the field stuff, you just don't know. And he needed his time to grieve and process. And then once he got through that, oh my goodness, he became the Tim Anderson we've come to love.
Yeah, I mean, and the numbers are there.
Yeah.
And again, what we deal with outside of baseball, I said this earlier, as fans, we have this like impression about like the investment that we've made into this team, and it's very emotional, uh, where we feel like we are owed things, or like we have certain rights and access to people that we really don't. Like,
Right.
just you know what I'm saying? Like, and in terms of like injuries, even like it's not our business what the injury even is.
It's interesting. I've always
You know what I'm
you brought
saying?
this point up quite a bit, and I've always kind of wondered about it because it is such a normal thing in sports that somebody goes down with an injury or has a health issue of some sort. It gets reported on, and we
Yeah.
find out. So there must be some sort of a waiver that they sign that
Poss-
allows certain
I
amount to come out.
Yeah, I mean, even and I'll bring up Larusa and like how he left the team last year. I'm sure maybe he had some health issues. I don't doubt it, but I also kind of feel like he had enough, and he's like, "Tell him whatever the fuck you want. I'm out." I mean, like I don't know. It's hard to say. It's none of our business at the end of the day. So maybe it's like this is what I'm allowing you to say uh, publicly, and that's the waiver they sign off on, and that's basically it's case by case.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what are you comfortable sharing with the media about your injury? And that's between the front office and the probably the players union and like his agent or their
Yeah.
whoever it is in question, really. But I just feel like it's as fans, it's like we aren't entitled to know all this information as much as we care and we want to know because we want to see the team do well, the players do well. There's got to be a point where you're like, okay, well, let me know when you're better. Have a good
Right.
recovery. I'll see you. We're gonna be over here. Let us know if you need anything. That's where I'm at. Like, I don't want to be too involved in their lives
Sure.
to that point where I'm like, hey, did you get your spaghetti last night? Like that's not me.
It's it just takes me back to, I mean, again, back to Tim Anderson. He eats the spaghetti at night once he hits a home run,
Yeah,
So we
I
should
think
know
that's
that.
yeah. And is it marinara or do you just put olive oil or what
Yeah.
kind of what do we do here?
So let's start to get into the chaos um,
Fight.
of the fight. Yes, yes, we've been putting it off for a while here. So one of the things that, man, it's just there's so much to unpack. I want to make sure I have the right video queued up too. Okay, so one of the things that apparently really upset the former tribe. I almost called them the tribe. The Clevelanders was a play right here.
This is the one from Friday night, right?
So this is the day before the fight. Yeah, so I believe that is Friday, and we see some great glove work from Trace Thompson there.
Welcome back, Trace.
Yeah, and close play at the plate. Anderson sweeps the tag, and at that time, obviously he'd already come in safe, but in so doing, bringing the glove over, which all guys right now are trained. You keep the glove on the runner in case something happens where they come off. And this time, you could very easily argue, well, the tag is what pushed him off. He didn't just naturally slide the bag. The tag itself pushed the hand off, and he's called out. Which, by letter of the law, and I'm not a fan of this, by letter of the law, he's out.
All right. So what I'm seeing is a guy who's still moving.
Okay.
Like his if you roll that back
Yeah,
a little
let's bring
bit,
it back.
right before like watch his feet, watch his foot.
See, I think it stopped.
But even so, I mean, I think because the foot he was still in motion.
Yeah.
And his hand was still on the bag. But like that looks like momentum takes over. Like I don't think look how Anderson's knee hits the base.
So let me back this up a little bit more again. So I think it's and again, by letter of the law, by how it's written, this was the right call that he should be out.
Yeah.
For me, and I think by letter of the law, it's the play includes Anderson sweeping to make that tag, which pushes his hand off, even though he's not maliciously trying to like lift him up from the bag or anything like that.
I don't think it's malicious, but if you'll see how his knee, the knee that hits the base, his left knee, it looks like it. Like I don't know. It looks like you ever stub your toe.
Oh, too many
You know what
times.
I mean? Like it kind of throws his equilibrium off a little bit. It looks like to me. Again, you're not there on the field to see it, but like it looks
Right.
like he loses his balance a tad bit, and the way his reaching across with his mitt across his body, and his knee gets stopped by the base. It's like too. It's like whoa. You're not. You know what I'm saying? You're like you can't.
Yeah.
The two forces hitting into each other almost, and I
I
think
could
that
go ahead.
carries into like lifting up the hand a little bit. I don't think it was intentional. I think it was literally just like energy of the situation and the motion in the ocean and the way the earth was rotating around the sun at the moment. That's what happened.
And so I'm with you in that it wasn't intentional. It was a continuation of the play. But I could see a rule coming up to say that the motion of a fielder can't be the cause for a runner to be removed from a base.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be like almost like a fumble in football.
Sure.
Like, did you have possession before is it a complete pass? I mean, how, like, what is the rule on possession? Like 3 seconds? Like, did he have it in his hand for 3 seconds? And is it a complete pass? So is that a rule, or is like, hey, the guy was still moving, so like, technically he's still in play? I don't know.
I mean, they called it like it's a continuation of the play. And now let's flash back. Wouldn't you know it? It's also against Cleveland. This is Adam Eaton running to second base here on a hustle double. And a very similar thing happens where as the runner stands up, and wouldn't you know it again, the bench is clear.
On Jackie Robinson Day.
On Jackie Robinson Day, no less.
Jesus.
But as the fielder stands up, it lifts Adam Eaton from the bag, which means he's no longer touching the bag and he's out. I think they're very similar plays. And isn't it wild again that it's a close play at second between Cleveland and the White Sox?
Yeah, it is. I feel like in this clip you showed the guy who was like, because he was standing. He like if you look at his stance over the bag, he's got his like the way he's positioned. He's guarding that bag, whereas Anderson's coming in from behind to lay a tag on him.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's that motion from Anderson at the same time, where I could see where like he's colliding or losing balance and lifting the hand up. This, he's literally like if you hit play again, you'll see how look how his legs are rising. Mm-hmm. He's got his power. He's basically like, you're not getting anywhere near this. He knew what he was doing.
Here we go.
He was using his hip. Yeah.
So right there, you see, it is not a forced play, of course. It was a double.
He's safe. He's touching the bag.
Yeah. Adam Eaton's just like David Rocchio was also, he was in first too. And then same type of thing though, that the continuation of the play.
Yeah, see, he could have stopped right there. He knows he sees his hand or his forearm is over his shin.
Mm-hmm.
So he just knows by standing up, he's like, that guy's arm is coming up with me. I'm gonna keep tagging him.
Exactly.
So I think that's like a done play though. Like I
think they both should be considered done plays. In my opinion, they and both times the runner should have been safe at second.
Yeah. And they're both basically doing what they can to get away with whatever they can to make the play. And
yeah, I mean,
basically what their job is.
You can never blame a player for playing hard. It's up to the umpires to determine, and the rule writers to determine how a play should be defined and what is good and what isn't.
You know what I noticed though is like, all right, so everyone's wearing 42 because it's Jackie Robinson Day, except the umpire crew. The umpires are not wearing number 42. Yeah, why is that? That's weird. But once they eject everyone from the game who has to be ejected, like I can't recall if they ever say like, all right, number 42.
Yeah.
All the 42s are getting, it's like, I don't know.
It's like if it was like the NBA, I think they do that for like technical fouls in the NBA.
Like football does it. Like
football
number 44 on the offense. Yeah. But they don't do that in baseball, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not like it's often happens, like where they're like, yeah, we got to eject number 12 again, which would have been very, very possible back in the day.
And then finally we do have, let me get the volume down so we can talk.
More video.
And then, finally the play that set it all off, which I keep hearing that it started, or part of it started because Jose Ramirez was upset at how hard the tag was. which I don't, has he ever said that, or is that people guessing and wondering if that's what set it off?
What I read on in the Athletic,
Mm-hmm. Good
that
replay.
when he was speaking through his interpreter, is that he mentioned him like, "Hey, you're tagging people too hard," is basically what he said.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he
Sure.
said through his translator or whatever. So when you look at that, it does not look like it's a crazy play, and I don't
No.
even think he's like when he's doing what he's doing right now, Ramirez, and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of goes up like that. I don't think he even like someone said he tried to grab him by the balls. I'm like, I
Oh
don't
no,
think
I don't
that's
think
what
so.
happened at all here, guys. I think like he's reacting, getting up, like, hey man, what's going on? You got to do that. Like, what? I told you once. That's what I think is what happened, based on what you hear after the game and whatnot. It didn't look aggressive to me at all. It didn't look.
No.
The tag does not look aggressive. The way he's positioned at the bag, he's not in front of it. He's kind of behind it. So it's like, it doesn't seem like he's blocking him from touching the bag.
No.
That's a shitty slide. It came in too
Late.
late.
Sure.
And if there was an issue before the end of the, prior to the game before, based on the other slide, and they took issue with it, these
Yeah.
guys know when they're in the middle of a game, just like you do when you're doing your job, like how quickly and like something comes to your head while you're in the process, and if you have to make a pivot, you can or whatever. These guys are professional athletes. He's
Mm-hmm.
rounding second. He already knows he's been pissed at Tim Anderson the day before. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I got an opportunity to show up a guy. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to come in a little late just to
Sure. Oh, I think so.
send that message."
And that's okay.
And that was it. I think he came in later than he wanted to, or probably should
Maybe.
have,
Yeah.
because he almost went right through his legs off the bag.
Right.
He's lucky he didn't. But like that doesn't look like it's a hard tag to me at all. It
No,
looks like it's very routine for that kind of situation.
yeah, and it's on the back of his shoulder too. I thought it was like maybe he got him in the head, but he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't like get him like hair coming through. At least it didn't look like that.
No, and then also here we get one more look at it, and then also it kind of seems like he's upset that Tim Anderson is lingering over him, but obviously we're seeing this in slow motion. He really wasn't like a football player would be kind of like standing over a guy, prohibiting
Yeah.
him from standing up. I don't really think that happened
No,
either.
I don't think so either. I think he was more like, where are we at with the play? Let's everyone just, you know what I mean? Like you hold the ball in your hand. You just hold the ball after
Yeah.
a play. And the reason you hold the ball after a play is like, hey, dude, let's just not move the ball. And if we all know where the ball's at, this guy ain't moving anywhere.
Yeah,
It's like we're going to settle the play down.
And very often they wait because the umpires then will say, okay, play is dead. Now you don't have to worry about if you drop the ball or if you miss
So like if
throw
you're
it to the pitcher or whatever.
So to stay over the like in that situation, if you're just standing there and you're waiting for someone to call time,
Mhm.
that's like, all right, I'm just waiting because like I don't want to like step on this guy or like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like that's caution.
Yeah. So as
the
soon as that's it. I mean, looking at it here, as soon as the umpire makes the safe call, Tim Anderson stands up to walk off. See, safe call is made, and that's that. You know, it should have been that's that.
The thing is, they cut right to Kopak,
Yeah.
and it's like that's when something was said. You know what I mean? There
Sure,
must
sure.
like be right before all this, like they cut the Kopak. He said something, and then you see the finger point.
Yeah.
So like somebody said something that pissed the other guy off beyond
Safe is
a hard
made.
tag.
And we're
This
zoomed in.
doesn't-
We can't see Tim's mouth there. So
Yeah.
But so at the end of the day, well, at the end of the day,
That's
down
so
goes
hard to watch.
Anderson. It is. What is it with White Sox players is getting their bell rung? You know, I think of AJ Przinsky and Michael Barrett. And that.
Okay, so let's talk about
at the
AJ.
plate.
I was at that game, and
You were at that game. Oh,
yeah.
man.
Oh yeah. So I read an article and they kind of made it sound like AJ got his bell rung at that game, and they always show you a still of AJ
Yeah.
getting clocked, right? And if you were at the game, or if you watched the video of that, AJ is standing on his 2 feet,
Mhm.
and Michael Barrett comes in with everything he's got.
Yeah.
With that jab, or whatever you want to call it, that hook.
Sure, sure.
And or haymaker, whatever punch he was throwing, and AJ Przinsky pretty much just was like,
Well,
he didn't like. He maybe stepped back a tad, but like you didn't
Sure.
knock this dude down,
No, he didn't.
and he didn't lose his legs.
Yeah.
And before you know, I like, actually, oh, here we have it. Oh, I love that. How cool.
It's and he was just surprised. He wasn't ready for a fight. He wasn't expecting a fight. This is back in the day when plays at the plate like that could happen.
See, watch this. He's like, oh, it's
Yeah,
on.
he got pushed back.
He gets pushed back a little bit, but like at the end of the day, he stays on his feet. And Przinski's a big dude.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not like, a small dude by any stretch, and neither is Barrett. But that thing I thought was like Barrett was so out of line.
Oh
for doing that. This isn't like I don't think AJ got his ass beat because of what that was a cheap shot because your ego got bruised and you wanted to the place went nuts, by the way. Like
I can't imagine.
It was
a play at the plate. It's the most exciting moment in the game anyway.
Yeah.
And then you have this on top of it.
And you see him going like this, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so cool.
AJ's got stronger sea legs under him than Tim did after the fight.
Oh well, he is a catcher, man. I mean, he's on his legs literally the entire game squatting. So, yeah. I mean, I feel like this was a cheap shot. This was a clean play too.
Clean play. I think it's AJ slamming the base there, home plate. That upset him as well. And then AJ just had no idea that there was going to be an issue.
And that was more of a forearm than a punch.
Right. Gets him like behind the jaw.
Yeah.
But he took it just fine. Like the people in the background, oh no.
But there was Pasednik right there to like throw another punch at Barrett.
Yeah.
You didn't see that happen.
See, he's fast. He was getting a lead off from the dugout.
He's the Flash.
First signal. Yeah.
Anyway. He's the Flash, man. But I think that was a fun game to be at because it was like when there was a reason to have a rivalry between the two teams. Now it just seems like if one team is good and the other one's bad, it's like,
it's such a bummer because it's really the Chicago's such a fun place when both teams are doing well.
Yeah.
And both people have something. Both fan bases have something worth talking about because that's don't always happen.
Well, there was a few years ago where they both had an amazing June and they both seemed like they were playoff bound. And I think they both ended up, the Cubs were in the playoffs, but not the Sox. Yeah, no, there was a season, maybe it was 2016 or 17. I remember Brett Lowry was still on the White Sox. This is how long ago it was. And both teams were just off to a scorching start and the White Sox couldn't carry the momentum. They were playing, I guess, over their heads a bit, but it was very fun to be in Chicago at that time for that brief moment. Indeed, man. So where are we at the scroll? I love reading the scroll.
Let's I guess any last thoughts? I mean, because I thought it was kind of annoying that Jose Ramirez kind of took it upon himself. He said that basically Tim Anderson is bad for baseball and he's disrespecting the game and he was trying to teach him a lesson as if it's his place. And Jose Ramirez is a terrific player. Like I have total respect for him as a hitter. He's amazing that he's as fast as he is with a Kirby Puckett build. And it's kind of disappointing to see. And I think he was disappointed in himself. He said that he didn't like to be that guy. So he's also winning the PR war, like no question.
Well, here they both look like idiots for fighting.
Sure.
Nobody really won that fight. They both looked stupid. And like I said earlier, those images are out there forever. Yeah. And there's a T-shirt that's being floating around already, that looks like very Iron Mike Tyson from Nintendo days. Punch Out. Oh, that one. Yes. I've also seen kind of the Muhammad Ali style one where he's standing over. Yeah. it's like, I mean. Once I saw that happen, I'm like, I thought the same thing that the radio guy from Cleveland said, or the TV guy is like, down goes Anderson. I was like, wow, that was something else to see. But it was also like, it hurt watching these two guys, these two grown men just go at it. Like they really thought the only solution at that point was just to go at it and drop their fist or whatever on it. It's just unbelievable. So I hate seeing that because it just makes you sick. But like, again, you obviously personal space has got invaded. Yeah. And if that were me, I would have been like, oh, I'll take that finger with me. Right. Put it in my face. I will keep that finger. You want it back? Take it back. I dare you. And of course, Tim Anderson's going to respond to that if you hop up. So at the end of the day, Tim Anderson gets a 6-game suspension that he's appealing, and Jose Ramirez gets a 3-game suspension that he's also appealing. I thought they would get equal suspensions. I really feel like Jose Ramirez started that incident right there in a bubble. And obviously Tim Anderson was one that first
through the first punch. That could have just been a shoving match, like most baseball brawls, quote unquote, are. But yeah, so I mean, I see them each being equally responsible, but
Yeah. Oh, there's no one's like right. No one's. They're both
right.
wrong. I think they should have both gotten the same amount. I think they should have both have 3 games. The
Sure.
6-game suspension seems excessive
Yeah.
for Anderson, but I get it. He dropped mitt. He put the Dukes up like he was in fighting Notre Dame guy, and I was like, let's do this.
But you take one game off at least for the fact that he lost the fight. So I mean, he's already gotten as much embarrassment as you could probably.
Totally, man. It's like the embarrassment alone is like, dude, that's enough. Let this guy be and just move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't like the how this PR war is actually being played out. Like, oh, I applied, or no, I didn't apply. I apologize and I reached out, but I haven't gotten an answer yet. And it's like, bitch, what is this? I didn't get an answer yet. Like, you're not deserving of an answer. You just apologized. He doesn't have to accept it. Just
Handle it in
move
the
on
off
with your life.
season. Handle it in the off season.
Yeah. It's like,
this is the time of year also where you tend to see baseball fights more often because you have these guys, these teams like the White Sox and Cleveland that have had frustrating years, and they've already been eliminated, and it's boiling over. The frustrations are.
And I think that's where, like, especially when you talk about Anderson's year,
right,
and like everything that's coming at him from off the field, on the field, it's just like, there's a point where, like, hey, he's a human being. He's, just like you and I. Everyone's dealing with a lot of weird shit, and at one point or another, man, we're all gonna crack. So, like, I think that's another thing is like the expectation that, like, oh, these guys can handle it. I don't necessarily think they can. They're under the same pressures, if not more than we are. They're human.
Yeah.
So to see that happen with everything else going on, for his season, it just was horrible to see, and I felt bad for him.
Yeah. Well, on a similar note about keeping the frustrations mitigated, as trying to put on your best face going forward, a lot of that happens, I think, at the leadership level as well in the dugout. So let's talk about what Kenyon Middleton, just recently former White Sox pitcher, traded to the Yankees, had to say, which is quite a bit about the lack of rules, about the lack of a strong culture within the White Sox. And there was, I think we're both going to agree, the three of us will agree, that he's got some good points in there. I do have some issues with some of what he's talking about, though. Is there anything to you that you want to bring up first? Because he said a lot.
He did, man. He did. Oh, goodness. Is it Keenan?
I thought it was Kenyon.
Kenyon. See, I thought the same thing, too, but the Y comes before the N. So I'm thinking Keenan, like Keenan.
Or Ken,
Keenan.
like Ken.
Kenyon. Or, I don't know. Anyways, that's what we think about. What's his name?
Mr. Middleton.
Mr. Middleton. I guess. Where do you begin with this thing? Because he literally dropped a bomb.
Oh yeah.
And
he was dishing.
like, he was, and the thing, I think honestly, like, for me, I kind of felt like this was happening all last year as well. And there's a lot of, like, what he mentioned about the WBC caught my attention, I think, the most, about how, and this is, I thought, very insightful for just because you don't hear this from players a lot, but, like,
sure.
So you don't know this about spring training, and like, well, the whole point of doing this is to get to know each other and to find out who the leaders are. Yeah. And when the people who are supposed to be leaders aren't here to show us that they're the leaders, well, this is what happens. And he mentioned all these things about no rules, no accountability. These were things that, like, I remember saying last year about players based on just everyone wanting to blame La Russa. Like, that was the solution, to blame. There's no, like, I mean, I get it. Like, there's so many other factors, but, like, I feel like we are finally seeing that La Russa wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
He was the face of many, but there were so many other problems. And I think that's why Jose Abreu wasn't here this year. Yeah. I feel like the White Sox have a history of when they have a fan favorite player like Abreu, Carlton Fisk, Mark Burley, Paul Konerko, they find ways to make a deal.
Sure.
They just do.
Yeah.
And they said they made an offer to Jose Abreu, and he respectfully declined and signed elsewhere. Whatever season he's having, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that like that to me was a red flag. Like, wow, you guys didn't come to a deal with this guy. You said he was a White Sox player for life. So there's a story right there behind it. Why he didn't want to be there anymore is the story.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So that to me was a big red flag. Going into the season, they hired a new guy who obviously never managed before, but he has experience in the majors. And I feel like if you are Jose Abreu or AJ Pollock or some of these other guys that aren't here anymore after last season, do you want to be there for that rebuild and recommit? Because you literally are starting over. That's what you're saying. Even though you tell your fans, hey, we're still competing. We're in our window still, even though we hired a second manager or technically a third.
Right.
Since this rebuild. And that just seems like there's no direction there.
Yeah.
And that's not on the players. That's the front office, man.
Sure.
Front office dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And they kind of created the Middleton scenario. So then I guess Rick Hahn's response, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, yeah, I'll go back a bit because so first off, the WBC, I've always felt it was odd and unfortunate. And it's tough to get the stars to come out and play extra baseball. So I think that's the idea that like, okay, instead of spring training, you can do this. It's unfortunate because it would be, I wish that was a whole separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
It would be probably too expensive to get these guys to come back, let's say in December somewhere and play these like warm weather games in the off season. But also you can't fault the White Sox for that. That's what's going on around all of baseball.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Every team has to deal with this.
Yeah.
I do think that the White Sox missed an opportunity to like Tim Anderson's a good second baseman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I, not to say he's a bad shortstop, but like, I think his value is that he's a hitter.
Sure.
He's great at offense. And if he's playing right field, I'm cool with it.
Okay, just get him in the lineup somewhere.
Yeah, if he's hitting 30 or 40 homers, who cares, man? Like the guys, that's the value he's bringing is like he's his offense. You know, I mean, the guy he's a batting champion. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So I don't care where he plays as long as he's hitting. You know, that's
Sure.
how I look at it. But like, but with I guess this whole Middleton dude, like I don't know. I'm all over the map.
So he would talk about, and I just have to acknowledge because somebody might chime in. We realize that Tim Anderson is not hitting 30 or 40 home runs this year. He's up to one.
Right.
Yeah. So, but you know, on a good year, he has that kind of pop potential, or at least he has showed it in the past.
Yeah.
So Middleton, this is the other incongruity that I have to point out because he would talk about how pitchers would miss PFP, which is pitchers fielding practice, and there'd be no recourse for somebody skipping that. There would be rookies sleeping in the bullpen during a game.
Yeah.
And there's no recourse for that. But according to him, the problem with this insubordination wasn't with the pitching staff. It was with the position players. Like, wait a minute. Your examples of guys not honoring, respecting the game are all pitching issues. But it's a position player. So he's trying to push fault away really quickly while admitting it too a little bit. It seemed odd.
The whole thing is his comments were weird because like the guy who's making the comments, and you see this on Twitter or whatever they call it, they're saying like, well, what reason would he have to lie? Like he's if anything, he's ruining his career by making these comments. And it's like, well, maybe so, but like he broke the number one rule in baseball.
Keep it in the dugout.
Well, clubhouse.
Yeah, sure.
What you see here, what you do here, what you say here, what blunt, whatever it is, if it's pertaining to that clubhouse, let it stay in the clubhouse. And he didn't do that.
I think he's trying really hard to already suck up to get the Yankees to re-sign him.
Well,
in the same piece, he talked about how he couldn't wait to shave his beard because that's a rule of the Yankees, and that the White Sox need more rules. And the White Sox, I think, do probably need rules. And so here's the thing that's funny though too is even though he's only been with the White Sox this year, he says, "I know this is how it's been in previous years." It's like, I'm sure people talk, but you don't really personally know. Also, in previous years, the White Sox were making it into the playoffs. So obviously not last year, but the previous two. So
yeah.
It was working fine. The culture was fine then.
There's something happened. There's a disconnect at one point after the 2021 season
Sure.
going into 2022. That
Mhm.
to me that's where it all starts.
Right.
That's why we're at where we are now. But like, I feel like the Middleton comments, like what you said, he's basically gaslighting.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Just like Rick Hahn's responses were. But like with Middleton, oh, I couldn't wait to shave this beard. Well,
Yeah.
why did you need permission from the White Sox?
Right.
There's no rules. Shave the beard. Do
Yeah.
what you want.
And
You know,
also,
like I don't know.
you're saying you really need rules to be responsible,
Yeah, like you're an
you know?
adult, dude.
Yeah.
Like, come on, grow up.
And I
Like
could
you know
see
what you're supposed to be doing. If your guys aren't there, people are blowing off the practice. Well, you're not practicing for them. Your job
right.
is to know that you can do it and be ready when they call on you. So shut up.
And you could be the clubhouse leader that starts to lay the law down and
How
be a
about that?
captain. How about that? Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, we're looking for people like you,
Yeah.
leaders. I don't know. I feel like I think he was out of line, but he also kind of like maybe said what a lot of people were thinking,
Sure.
and he forced the White Sox to address it.
Yeah.
So I'm calling that a win in
I think it's
itself.
good. I think it is good because I wonder with Pedro Grifol being a first year manager, and I never want to overlook the fact that his bench coach is Charlie Montoyo, who has great head coach experience. He's been to the playoffs. He's been there,
Yeah.
done that. So it's great having him on the part of the leadership team as well. But I wonder, does Pedro have some insecurity? Like, I've never been the captain of this ship before. I don't know what I don't want to overstep. I'm the new guy. Which also that comes from top down too. It could be Kenny Williams, Rick Hahn saying, "Hey, you are the guy. Lay down the law. You are in your right place to do that." But I'm with you, Joe, that I think it could very well be a big positive for next year.
Yeah. And you mentioned something funny, like, is it a confidence issue for Pedro? Like first time manager, doesn't really think he can actually say what he wants to say and all that other stuff. Maybe that's the case, but
Maybe.
I still feel like the idea is that maybe he came in with a laissez-faire attitude and like, hey, this will just develop, or the leader will present itself. I won't have to force that issue, and I kind of like that idea, but like I feel like if it hadn't been proven from like the last year,
Yeah.
like last season, that these guys needed a little bit more direction and leadership, that you got to come in with a better plan than like let the leader show himself and we'll gather around that person. It's not as natural, I think, as he was hoping, and I think they gave him talking points that he just was enthusiastic to have a job and an opportunity to do something that's like managing a Major League Baseball team. There's only 30 of them,
Right.
so it's
You've
an
earned your way
exclusive.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he wanted that job, so like the White Sox needed someone that they could basically control and have a puppet. That's where I think there's an disconnect with the front office and the clubhouse, and how to like approach preparing for a game. It could be analytics issues, it could be cybermetrics, or whatever the word is they use, sabermetrics,
Yeah. There you go.
statcasting or lack thereof,
Uh-huh.
and wanting that information and not being able to get access to it. And it's like there's so much we just did not see happening.
Yeah.
It's hard to really say. So like you can't blame anyone. You can't. The front office. That's who I point my finger at.
Well, I was going to say, if there is an issue with Han, or not Han, Grifol not knowing where he stands, that is, that comes from the directives from the top.
Yeah, but I feel like also like some of his responses in post game press conferences with the media,
Yeah.
and the media is a big factor here. I think we overlook how hard the Chicago sports media can be
Sure.
on athletes or on
Yeah.
teams, and then throw in social media. When we were young kids in the 90s and 80s, there was no access to players like there is today in terms of like I can fire off a one-liner and basically an invisible dart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like
Right,
and I
right.
can hit you, and like that's like if one person's doing that, and like Tim Anderson's a really good example. If you go
Yeah.
on Twitter, and the guy can get dragged for hours by people, and you don't even know, like, do you guys even know what's going on? And you just like to drag people. And that plays a big role, I think, in terms of like having another thing they have to balance as a pro athlete is, hey, dude, it's one thing to get heckled at a game, but I can't even like get off the field, log onto a phone, and being called a douchebag every which way. Then I'm getting yelled at through the Chicago media and the sports guys. Those guys, you know, there's so much going on here.
Yeah,
it's no wonder that these guys are like sometimes struggling. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of weight. In our text thread, our White Sox text thread, as I'm sure many people watching also
Which
have.
I repeated every point I've ever made in that text.
Sure. As we were talking about rules, clubhouse rules, I really do think no social media during the season. Just spring training, you just log out, delete the app, and don't come back to it until, if you want to wish people happy New Year's, happy holidays. And speaking of sending some love, White Sox 2023, but you can't wait to change that to 2024 as we feel optimistic about the future year. But thank you for stopping in and saying hi.
That's awesome, man.
We've been talking for a while now. And I don't know if there's anything you want to bring up, anybody watching, please do. But I was just going to mention a couple of little milestones that might be on the horizon. We're looking for reasons to keep watching.
For the season,
for the season. And I'm really enjoying, now that the White Sox have been eliminated, not enjoying that part, but not feeling as tied, and just I've been watching the rest of baseball a bit more.
I'm watching your scroll real quick. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but we really didn't talk about Rick Hahn's response.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that.
That's like a gaslighting moment right there. Scrolling it across
and then not
teasing everybody, and then not even bringing it up, man. Gaslight. All right, so let's get into that, because he did gaslight.
So I'm not without getting into. I'll let you get into it deeper, but I had conflicting feelings about it, because one, anytime Rick Hahn speaks, I feel like, okay, here comes the Stepford wife who is just going to robotically say the right thing, and he actually called out Kenyon Middleton, and I was not expecting that. Which, same type of thing we're talking about. You kind of want to rise above it, but I kind of gave him props for getting down in it.
All right, here's what I will say about like his response to that was like, I thought it was beautiful in the sense that like, well played, Rick. Yeah. Well played. You not only did you somehow bring up like how he came to you and as he was leaving the clubhouse and apologized, and he expressed interest in playing and working together in the future. And then he mentioned how he was at one point, you guys didn't think I was an idiot when I was getting executive of the year. So he threw both of those points in his response. And it was like, I see what you're doing. It was very subtle, Rick. Now you're reminding us that you won executive of the year.
Yeah.
And that you treated this guy so well that he wanted to come back and play for you. And that you're just so surprised that he would throw you under a bus after having such a heart-to-heart conversation. You didn't call him out for being basically disingenuous, but that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right. And now Lance Lynn kind of like, I didn't say it like from what I saw in the video clip when they asked Lance Lynn. Did you see this?
I haven't seen this. No, this is news to me.
He was on like AJ Przinsky's
podcast. Yeah.
Podcast. And they asked him, hey, is there any truth to what he said?
Okay.
Middleton.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I was there a lot longer than he was. And this is what I'll say about that. And he doesn't say anything. And he basically, and they're like, okay, so what are you going to say? And they're like,
just that he won't talk, or what vibe did you get out of it?
The vibe I was like, yeah, he's not wrong.
Okay. Gotcha.
He's right. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to come out and say it, because I know the rule.
Sure.
Right. So I kind of feel like, we got hoodwinked by this front office. They I don't know. I can get that's another episode, but like they basically he gaslit his response and threw Middleton under the bus.
Sure.
At the same time. And took the pressure off of him.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, he was the architect who put this team together. And he's still saying like, well, they didn't perform the way I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know.
It's still, at the end of the day, he's the one that put it all together, including just really clearly needing a few more pieces. Like from opening day, we knew this.
Yeah.
So, and also just bringing up, I was executive of the year is just like Al Bundy talking about his 4 touchdown passes thrown in a single game,
Like, yeah, right.
It's about today, dude, not what you did 5 years ago.
Like, oh, could you imagine? Like, I mean, it's just the CEO speak of professional sports. It's not just Rick Hahn; it's
Right.
everywhere. I remember the guy who coached the Bears, Nagy.
Okay. Yeah.
He's now, I think, a coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. That guy would come out on Monday morning in front of the Bears logo and then all that other stuff, the step and repeat. And
Yeah.
he would literally be like, he'd give you every buzzword answer that you could possibly think of, like, and get on board and support. Like, those guys in that locker room, every single one of them, not one of them does, not a single one doesn't understand what it means to be a Chicago Bear. All right. Let me
Man.
tell you that right now. And every single one, we come here with pride. We come here every day to win. That's why we're here, man. And like, you hear this after they've gotten trounced
Right.
for like the 5th week in a row. And like, you're still like, all right, maybe you're onto something, and like you get on board and you accept it. And they did the same thing with the White Sox and like other sports in Chicago. These guys all are like, so like, well, it's not the way we wanted it to work out today. And they throw in some like really cool business analytical terms. And like, the strategy was that we would perform to the highest capability of our standards here in this clubhouse. And we're just not meeting that. So there is a culture problem. We acknowledge that, which, by the way, that was the first time I heard them talk about culture.
Culture. Sure.
Was in that press conference when they asked him about the
No.
culture. I don't remember him talking about, like, because he specifically said, we've been talking to you guys for the last several weeks about our culture and how what we're doing to address that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I don't remember him talking about that in the media. And man, unless the media just wasn't reporting it.
I don't know. I mean, it's not a sexy term to be, I guess, writing about, perhaps. But the thing that it's important to remember too is that culture doesn't matter if you're winning. Nobody's talking about what's the culture as long as the wins are coming up, and if people are winning, people are just having fun. And the culture is, we have fun, we play, and we win. Culture is very important if you have a lot of expectations on you, and that's something that the White Sox have been terrible at. Not even just this current rebuild, but anytime it seems that there's been a ton of expectations. It could be 2006 after winning the World Series. It could be at different times in the 90s when the White Sox had what looked on paper to be a very good team, and then they were a 500 team at the end of the day.
Yeah, 97, man, the white flag trade, 3 games out before the deadline, and they're like, 7 people got traded.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
that's that.
The Chicago 7.
And the last 2 years, expanded playoffs. Like, the White Sox will easily make it in now. And no, neither of the last 2 seasons have we.
And maybe that's the approach is like, hey, we have an expanded playoff system.
We can try less.
Yeah, we don't have to build the team that we think we thought we had to build, because you can limp into the playoffs. And if you are the hottest team when the playoffs start, it doesn't matter how good you were all season long. All of a sudden, you're just catching a ride, and then it's one hell of a wave, and boom, you're in the World Series. There could be that approach, like, hey, man, less is more. We'll save some money. This new format's going to we'll get in. Look at the division we're in. Come on.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
And here we are.
So
exactly.
Next. No, I'm kidding.
No. It's all good. So I'll be quick about this because it's boring to rattle off numbers, but I want to take a look at some guys that might be, that have hit or coming up on some milestones. And let's start and end with Luis, because he has just had a great year. He's finally been healthy all season. The most important number statistically that he has set a new high for is 111 games played. His previous high was 98, and he's stayed healthy.
Yeah. I think I read he wanted to play 150 this year. That's his goal.
Okay. I mean, he'd have to play almost completely all the way through, but it's possible. And he's currently sitting at 195 career RBI. So he's coming up on a little milestone there. His previous high of home runs hit, what do you think it was, Joe?
Previous high of home runs
in one season
in the majors.
In the majors, yeah.
I'm gonna say like less than 10.
Oh, okay. See, I would have gone the other way. I would have guessed like 25. He just hit number 31 last night. His previous high was 13.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's been a coming out party for him for sure.
Well, I was kind of wondering because, like, obviously the injuries.
Sure.
But like, yeah, wow, 13 in a season or total 13
In one season, 13
one
total
season.
in one season.
But that was last year, I take it.
I don't have that in front of me. I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he set highs in just about everything. Hits 114, his old high was 108. Total bases, doubles, homers, RBIs, stolen bases. He's having a career year, and if our beliefs are right, he's still just growing as a hitter too. So he's going to be passing these numbers in the future.
Oh, for sure, man. Oh my God, like that. He hit a home run. I think it was last night. That was like a missile. Like, and it was just like his power is amazing. Such strength.
Yeah.
It's really cool watching him play.
Absolutely. We got a lot of pop in that bat. And the one thing that maybe is working against him is he's somewhat Harold Baines like, and that he's just not a flashy person. He's not a big talker. So he just goes about his work
Have you seen his car?
Oh, I haven't. I'm sure
he's got like a nice hot pink Barbie wrap around like Lamborghini type thing.
It does remind. Yeah, I think I have.
I think so, at least. I mean,
awesome.
I don't know. I remember a couple of years ago, maybe not anymore, but he has good taste in vehicles. Let's put it that way.
That's cool. Let's see. Tim Anderson has he's coming up on 1,000 hits. He's at 986 right now. Kind of ironic that Lucas Giolito claimed his 1,000th strikeout in his final White Sox game. Both of them were kind of on similar projections.
The people behind me, they were at his no hitter.
Oh man! By the way, I kept when we first came on, I was going to welcome Joe and Little Joe.
Yeah,
and not having to do with the fact that your pants were off.
I know we're both not wearing pants in this frame. This guy right here. Well, hold on, let's see.
There he is. If anybody watching enjoyed the 2020 season, anytime the camera showed over by third base, you had a Little Joe cameo.
And I didn't get paid a dime.
You paid, in fact.
I did. It's like a bringer show.
Right, but that was super cool.
I had season tickets. This is the first time I had season tickets. Was in the background there.
Rain or shine, you were there.
Yeah, I saw a no hitter.
Yeah,
and we didn't get to play any playoff games that year, but we were in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So I saw the team play championship baseball.
Yes, that's right.
Championship division baseball.
And then all the games were in Oakland.
Yes.
What a crime.
Sucks.
Andrew Vaughn hasn't quite had the breakout year that we're waiting for. I think he still has it ahead of him. But he is coming up. He's not there yet, but his career high in doubles is 28. He's at 24. And home runs is 17. He's at 15. So totally attainable goals for him.
Wow. And I would imagine he could probably finish the year with over 20 homers.
He could. He'd have to get hot because it's been he's at 15 at this point on August 9th. It definitely has been slower going than we were expecting from him. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Big shoes to fill, man.
Yeah. I mean, first base. There's such a proud history of White Sox first basemen ever since the early '90s. Frank Thomas, Paul Konerko, Jose Abreu. Now Andrew Vaughn. Will you be among that pantheon?
Yeah,
of sluggers,
or will you get shipped off to town?
Right.
Take him to the station. Just like in Yellowstone. Do you watch Yellowstone?
I don't watch Yellowstone. At least not yet.
It's good, trashy stuff, man. It's like Dallas meets Godfather in Yellowstone.
Dallas meets Godfather. I would have bought that pitch. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? They gave him a boatload of money, too. Like,
there we go.
Here you go. 2 bags of money.
And we've got Elvis Andrus at 99 career home runs and Tim Anderson at 98. So 2 guys with a legitimate chance of hitting their 100th home run this season.
Whoever hits 100 first gets to keep their job.
There we go.
That's it, dude.
They're both coin flips.
Is Elvis a free? He's not. He's. It's a 1-year deal.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll again go back to why did we trade Nick Madrigal and just constantly need to try to fill in that second base hole?
I don't know.
Yeah.
See, there you go, right there. It's like, wow, dude, what spell were you under, Rick Hahn, when you made that trade? Because like again, you make all these moves that are like, oh, this guy, he's like at the golden touch,
right?
And then he's like, whoa.
Yeah. And
You
then
okay, Rick?
and then Craig Kimbrell ends up making the All-Star team this year after having been not so great with the White Sox.
Yeah.
Baseball's
Isn't that
weird,
nuts?
man. Yeah.
It
really
happens
is.
all the time with the White Sox. We
Yeah.
not all the time, but like happens a lot where we get a player like, oh wow, we got this guy. Like remember David Wells? We were so happy
Oh,
we
yeah.
got David Wells, and
We had
within
him for
like 2
half a
months,
season. Yeah.
yeah, we're like, what happened, man? That guy sucks. Like, we
Yeah.
hate him, but like it was like, wow, we can't have anything nice, you know. And then
Right.
even that trade was like there was clouds around the
That was Kenny
legitimacy.
Williams' first trade ever, Shouldergate.
Was it really
Yeah.
his first one?
That was with Mike Sorotka for David Wells, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say Parquet, Jim Parquet, but you're right, it is
Oh.
Sorotka.
Yeah. Last one. Speaking of actually pitchers and maybe even tying in injuries, career highs. Michael Kopech is coming up on his career high in innings pitched, which is very important. Younger guy coming back from shoulder surgery, or from Tommy John, I should say.
Yeah.
He just needs 9 more innings to match his career high, and ideally, you want to see him keep expanding his strength as well. So I'll leave it off on that one, but that's a positive one.
That's a really good one. Do you think he'll be a closer or a starter next year?
I think he'll be in the rotation, mostly because the White Sox just need starting pitchers so badly.
Yeah.
I do wonder, would he have been better served long term had he stayed in the bullpen and developed as kind of that guy?
Yeah, it's who knows, man. No, I mean, it's out of our hands. It's all done. What's done is done.
And now it's up to the baseball gods.
Yeah, if there are some, I don't know.
Yeah.
He gets us. The baseball gods, he gets us. You ever see those commercials? The White Sox are involved. Like they have the "He Gets Us" ad campaign.
Oh no,
they're all over like the park.
Oh, I've seen I haven't seen a commercial, but I've seen the.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen commercials either, but like the ad space.
The ad space is everywhere, including when they played Texas recently. It's written on the pitcher's mound, which it's Texas.
Hey, dude, I guess they're paying for that. So
exactly.
Wonder what that cost.
Well, I loved when I would see at White Sox Park, I think, "He Gets Us" ad, and it would be like the best teammate you could imagine, or something along those lines, and it's right next to like Jack Daniels. It's like, wait a minute, are these the same ad?
Yeah, I noticed that when they had when Jose Abreu left, like his last game, they put up some graphic with Jose Abreu, like on the field looking at the fans, but behind him was the scoreboard that said the Caesars Sportsbook or the White Sox partnership.
Gosh, yeah.
And like, so like, I'm like, oh, you guys went out of your way to frame it that picture that way so he can thank the fans while you're also doubling down on an advertisement to get people to go gamble on baseball.
Right.
Like, this is just crazy.
Don't allow Pete Rose in, but everybody else can gamble all you want.
Isn't that weird? It's like, I don't even, it's so weird. Baseball is so different than I remember back in the 90s. When steroids ruled the game.
The golden age.
Yeah, right. That was our golden age with steroids.
It's true. 98. That was quite the time.
But they had a nice gold. Like I know we probably got to get off. We really did go long today.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Hour and a half. We don't have any commercials to try to fit in. There's nobody after us.
Yeah, right. Like someone's coming in to take the studio. Like
exactly.
Like, I don't know. Well, I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna say again. Oh my god.
Steroids or gambling? I don't know.
Yeah, like gambling and like in steroids. Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is just weird. Baseball is a walking contradiction sometimes.
Absolutely. No, the fact that there's gambling like sports books in stadiums now. Not all stadiums, but I think there's in some. And Cubs, I think, was one of the first ones, maybe.
Wrigley has one, I think. The Sox have a partnership with a sports book. I think it's on a riverboat. But yeah, the idea, like, I don't like it at all. I don't think that's
I'm
cool.
not a fan.
California, you can't bet online in California. It's against the law.
Okay.
And there was a bill, I think, during the last election, and California voted against it, but it would have allowed you to go on like FanDuel or DraftKings. The reason I think it failed was the bill itself was not well written. It was kind of like a lot of things were hidden in the bill, but more importantly, like California would have been paying to make bets, and a lot of the money would have gone to the state that the corporation is based in, like say DraftKings.
Oh, okay.
So like you're losing some of that revenue. Why not get somebody who's in California to keep that money in California?
Sure.
I think it was kind of like the push here. So who knows? I don't know. It's all politics stuff. It's not my concern. I don't
No,
you know?
no. And I don't care if people gamble, but I just feel like it's so weird when sports literally allows them to advertise and they're working
Yeah.
off of that. You know, it was they were so far apart once upon a time, and now they're completely intertwined, enmeshed.
Yeah. Well, analytics, when you got analytics and stat casting that are giving you up to date data, whatever, they're running algorithms, and here's like the 67% chance of this guy
Right.
stealing second,
Right.
in this situation. It's like a lot of games, a lot of betting in baseball is like it's by the pitch.
Sure.
So a lot of people like
micro gambles. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, totally, man. Pass the cup or something like that. That's another game I like playing in the stands. Ever play that?
No, I have not.
Hold the cup. That's what it is. So like you get a cup, right? And you put a $5 in it. And if you hold the cup, yeah. Oh, there you go. See, perfect. Ooh. Periscope is spelled incorrect on that, by the way. We didn't catch it in post before we went to the printer. But
thanks to my mom for catching that, by the way.
I love that. Thank you. So you get a cup, usually your empty beer cup. You put a couple bucks in or whatever the deal is. You amongst your friends in the stadium, you guys decide. And whoever's you pass the cup with each batter. Okay. And if someone's holding the cup when a home run is hit, whoever's holding the cup gets the money in the cup.
That's
and every time you pass the cup, you add more money to the cup. So it's progressive.
Yeah, right.
This is before the apps on your phone. And on, you just did it right there in front of people. So yeah, gamble, guys. The real way. The real way. None of this legit online. Let's go cash only. Don't.
The house doesn't get anything. It's all going to the player then. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm the player. The player with yourselves club.
There we go, Telly Savalas. Let's make more references only 40-plus-year-olds can possibly get. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I love it though.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, Joe. We'll have to do this more. It's fun. Now that we have the technology to support it.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I'll anytime. This was really cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and enjoy, everybody. See you later.
Till next time.